while you're solving $5 an hour problems, who's solving $1 million problems?
Hey, Michael, I wanted to get your take on something. I've been running my criminal practice for over a decade, but I still find myself doing tasks that probably don't make sense for me to do, like negotiating with vendors, ordering office supplies, etc. For example, last weekend, I spent 3 hours fixing our office printer instead of just calling a repair service. I know my time is worth more than that, but I also want to save money, and my team just doesn't care about cost the way I do. How do I get my team to care, or should I just keep these under my ownership?
So this is kind of a mixture between like a logical and a psychological issue. And I understand it because as I was starting Crisp, I did every single thing that there was to be done. I mean, you take out the trash, like you're cleaning the windows, I was updating WordPress plugins on our website. I could have hired a web developer, but I'm like, no, I got it. I know how to do it. It's no big deal, right? And set up people's laptops, install software, update their software, like whatever. I'd always look at it as like, it's not a big deal, right? I can absolutely do it. And in the same way as this person's asking the question around even negotiations and contracts and saying, well, if I got on the phone, I could have saved us some money, right? And somebody else probably doesn't care about saving money, right? Not in the same way that you might. And the way to look at this is less about should I just hold on to these things, and more so what is the opportunity cost of holding on to these things? So meaning that if you're spending 3 hours fixing the office printer, what are some other ways in which you could have invested those 3 hours? And would that, if you spent 3 hours doing something else, whether it was, I don't know, let's say working on a case or taking somebody to lunch, bringing in new business, would that have outweighed the cost it would have taken to hire a repair technician to come fix, IT or whatever, to fix the printer? And it's the same thing with your team. Like, yes, you can get on every single call and you can negotiate and you can try to get costs down, but is the time that you're investing there, is that the highest and best use of your time? If you spend your time differently, would that exceed whatever savings you would have gotten if you'd been on the phone? And Dan Martell, who wrote Buy Back Your Time, he has this concept called the buyback rate, to where you take whatever is your annual compensation, your annual salary, or whatever it is that the business pays you, and divide by 2,000, right? Which is typically the number of hours that somebody works in a year, right? Kind of multiply, let's say 40 hours a week times roughly 50 weeks a year, you get 2,000. And that number is the amount that you were paid per hour. And if you want to calculate your buyback rate further, Dan recommends dividing by 4, of saying that like you want to get a 4x return on whatever that buyback rate is. And that'll give you an idea of what your time is worth and what it would make sense to pay somebody else to do that per hour of your time. So spending 3 hours fixing the office printer, I'm sure you could do it. Maybe you enjoy it. Maybe you don't enjoy it. But you could have spent that 3 hours on the weekend with your family, and that's time you can never get back. That's like priceless. Now that's where I say, like, logically, this buyback rate helps you figure out the logical basis of, okay, well, if I am, let's say, making $100 per hour, why would I do like a $5 an hour task, right? It's just logically, that would not be the highest and best use of my time. But that's where we get into the psychological aspect of it, of you saying, well, what's the big deal? I can do this. I'm not that important. So it becomes a notion of like, well, I don't want to hold myself, I don't want to be entitled. I started the business. I was willing to do everything. And I don't want to come across as somebody who's not willing to do certain tasks, right? When instead, you're really kind of the opportunity cost of sabotaging the growth that you could be experiencing, because you're not operating. The goal of business from a ownership seat is really leverage. It's less about what you can do and more so around what can be the total output of your organization. And that's why you hire people. You hire people to be able to free up your time, and also to be able to expand the capacity of the number of clients you can work with, the level of service you can provide, and also to reduce dependency on you or any one person. So I think a lot of it just requires a mental reframe, and more so considering not like what is the cost of doing this, like what am I saving, and more so what is the opportunity cost of me spending my time this way as opposed to another way.
And those little things add up. I think that's where a lot of people are like, oh, it's just this one. I'm just making the coffee. I'm just fixing the printer. And then all of those things end up being like huge chunks of time.
I would say that while you're solving, $5 an hour problems, who's solving $1 million problems? Because sometimes you look at it and say, well, I could have hired a repair technician. It'd be like a few $100. Like, it's no big deal. I could save that money. But if your goal is to grow your firm, let's say by $5 million or $10 million, whose time and energy is focused on solving the $10 million problem rather than the $500 problem?